Winning Blueprint presents. 5 NFL franchises decided to turn their teams over to rookie quarterbacks in 2012, an unprecedented number thus far. So as they embark on their rookie campaigns, we will follow. So, now let's meet the NFL's starting 5. At number 5, a 5'11 rookie out of Wisconsin and the starter of the Seattle Seahawks, introducing number 3, Russell Number 4, a 6'3 rookie from Oklahoma State and the starter of the Cleveland Browns. Give it up for number 3, Brandon Weeden. At number 3, a 6'4 rookie via Texas A&M and starter for the Miami Dolphins, number 17, Tannehill. At number 2, a 6'2 rookie and second overall draft pick in the 2012 NFL Draft by way of Baylor and the starter of the Washington Redskins, welcome, number 10, Robert Griffin III. And at number 1, a 6'4 rookie and first overall selection in the 2012 NFL Draft by way of Stanford and the starter of the Indianapolis Colts, number 12, Andrew. This is your starting 5.
Welcome, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the NFL's starting 5. Welcome back. It's been a long week, and a lot has changed since the last time we visited to talk about the NFL's starting 5 with these rookie QBs who are embarking on a special season, the likes of which we've never really seen before in the National Football League. We had some big matchups for this group in the starting 5. You had 2 members of the starting 5 going head-to-head in Week 9. You had Robert Griffin III trying to get his team back on track against Cam Newton in a clash of former Heisman-winning quarterbacks from college. And so you had also Russell Wilson going back home for the first time in 3 weeks to take on the Minnesota Vikings, a team that had been performing well up until this point in the season. And so a lot of interesting matchups for this starting 5 group. And last week, as we closed the program, I told you that we were going to start something new this week, ranking the quarterbacks in the starting 5 for the week, and also ranking these quarterbacks overall for their performance in the season thus far. So you have 2 different rankings, guys trending up, guys going down, and so we'll talk about that as well in the program. But we're at the midpoint of the season. We're at Week 10 now. Week 9 is behind us, and every single one of these quarterbacks has at least played in 8 games. So now we have a sample size of a half of season for all of these quarterbacks. And so we're going to take a look at all of these quarterbacks one by one, all of their stats, and then we're going to release our first list of the quarterbacks, ranking them 1 to 5 for the week in Week 9. And then we're going to give you the list of the rankings for these quarterbacks 1 through 5 for their overall ranking as a collective group. So let's start with our number 5 quarterback, that being Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson has an interesting start to his career. He's one of the most interesting members of the starting five as we take a look at his numbers. Russell Wilson currently has a 62% completion percentage. That lands him second among starting five members, only behind Robert Griffin III, who is currently at 65%. So Russell Wilson is completing a high percentage of his passes. 62 is a great number for a rookie quarterback. You know, most rookie quarterbacks hover right around 60, usually below it, right around 58, 59, 57, somewhere in that general vicinity. He's been able to be very efficient. And the good thing about Russell Wilson, which makes him one of the most viable candidates for the best member of the starting five, is the fact that the Seattle Seahawks don't ask a lot of Russell Wilson. They give him just enough on his plate to not overload this rookie quarterback. They ask him to come in and not necessarily be a game manager per se, but they ask him to come in, make the throws that are there. When there are shots down the field, take them, make them, and don't make the critical mistake. Don't make the big error that cost us the football game. Augment this running game, which is our strength. Highlight our strengths, make us a better offense. That's what Russell Wilson has done for the Seattle Seahawks team, leading them to a 5-4 record, the second best record of any member of the starting five. Again, second place this time to Andrew Luck, who is 5-3 on the season. And so Russell Wilson has his team in a good position right now. As we take a look at his Week 9 stats, he was 16 of 24. So we're talking right around 66, 67% completion percentage. Excellent. This is what I'm talking about. Him making sure he completes the football, giving his team a chance to convert third downs, making the plays when they are there. Now, when we get down the line, you'll see an even more fascinating stat from his Week 9 stat line. But 16 of 24 helps to boost that completion percentage. You look at his yardage. Not a lot of yardage. Of the starting five, he averages 182.1 yards per game passing. That's the lowest of all of the starting five members. He's the only starting five member to not eclipse 200 yards passing per game. But what that says to me is that the Seattle Seahawks are controlling how much he throws the football. They're not asking him to push the football down the field too often. The more you throw the football, the further you throw it, the more likely it is for a turnover to occur. And so the Seahawks are letting him play within a framework of the offense, and it's working to their benefit. He's been one of the best members of the starting five class because his ability to not turn it over, to be efficient, and to help this team stay on schedule on offense. And so he only had 173 yards passing in this football game. However, that was more than enough to help his team win. It was more than enough to help his team get a W. And that's all that matters in the National Football League. Now, what was the most interesting stat of all his stats on Sunday in Week 9 was the fact that he threw for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That is remarkable for a rookie quarterback to throw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions in the game. You'll find yourself winning many ball games if you can do that. That means when you have opportunities to make throws, you make them. In the red zone, down the field, wherever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-yard touchdown, a 7-yard touchdown, a 27 or a 47-yard touchdown. When the opportunities present themselves to put 7 on the board versus 3s, he took advantage of them in this game, and that's a big reason why the Seattle Seahawks were able to beat the Minnesota Vikings at home 30-20. They were able to score points. Instead of kicking field goals, Russell Wilson was able to put the ball in the end zone, in his receivers' hands, give them an opportunity to make a play and score touchdowns instead of kicking field goals. So great job by Russell Wilson to do that, and he helped his team win a football game. As we continue to look at his numbers. So on the season, he's 145 of 234. Again, that's a completion percentage of 62%. He has 1,639 yards passing on the season. Again, the lowest amount, the lowest total for any quarterback in the starting five. However, he's getting the job done, and that's all that matters. Also, what you have to take into consideration is Russell Wilson has played in 9 games. He's the only starting 5 member, including Week 10, to not have had a bye week. Every other starting 5 member will have either had a bye or will be on their bye this week in Week 9. Russell Wilson would have played his 10th game after Week 10. Every other member of the starting 5 would have had a bye week. So he's the only one that hasn't had a bye week yet. So you have to keep that into consideration as well when looking at his numbers. Looking at his season totals for touchdowns, those 3 touchdown passes that he had on Sunday added to his total, giving him 13 for the season versus only 8 interceptions. So again, we're higher than a 1-to-1 ratio. You'll take it every time. He's approaching that 2-to-1 ratio, which is great, which is stellar for a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks get confused easily, make mistakes, have a tough time early on in their season, in their campaigns, of catching up to the speed of the game. Everyone's faster, and they have to realize that, so they make mistakes early on. He's been able to stay steady for the most part throughout his season thus far. He had one really bad game thus far against the St. Louis Rams. Other than that, Russell Wilson has been pretty consistent and steady throughout this season. And so he's really helped his team to that 5-4 mark with 13 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. As you look at rushing yards, what is surprising to me, being that he is such an athletic marvel at the quarterback position, is that he only has 155 yards rushing, which tells me he's looking to throw the football first and foremost, which he should. The Seahawks aren't utilizing him to run the football, which they don't need to. They have Marshawn Lynch for that. And he's not looking to scramble and doesn't have to. This line is protecting him for the most part, so he doesn't have to take off and run for his life. And so that's a good thing. He only has 155 yards rushing on the season, so he's not putting himself at risk to taking hits as well. And so that's a surprising number, though, for someone who is as athletic as Russell Wilson is. Another thing that's very alarming, or maybe just eye-opening, is the fact that he doesn't have any rushing touchdowns. Now, I don't know if that says that he's not tucking it and running in the red zone. Maybe they haven't had that many red zone opportunities, or maybe he is throwing the football when they get in the red zone, finding guys and taking advantage of his receivers winning matchups or giving them a chance to win a matchup instead of tucking it and running. Whatever the case, he has no rushing touchdowns in the season, which is surprising for someone as fleet of foot as Russell Wilson. But as we continue on, he's only been sacked 15 times this season. That ties him for second least in the starting 5. So his offensive line has been doing a great job of protecting him, in conjunction of Russell Wilson doing a great job of getting the football out of his hands. If nothing's there, get rid of the football. If nothing's there, tuck it and run. And so he's done a good job of keeping a balance of getting rid of the football, running when necessary, and his offensive line of protecting him in pass pro. So looking at Russell Wilson, he's only lost 2 fumbles on the season. He's only fumbled 3 times total. So that's a great number for a rookie quarterback. You would like to see those numbers come down in terms of fumbles lost. 2 isn't that many, but it's still a lot, especially when you've only fumbled 3 times in the season, which means when you fumble the football, you're not getting it back, is what that says. But again, he's not getting sacked a lot. He's not fumbling the football a lot, only 3 on the season, and he's lost 2 of them. So when he does fumble, chances are he's not getting it back. So that's another thing that they have to work on in Seattle, is making sure they keep him upright. And if you're Russell Wilson, have to protect the football, whether you're running with it or you're in the pocket. Have to make sure you have that pocket awareness and feel the rush around you and know that someone's around. You have to protect the football. Looking at his overall ratings, as a passer overall, he's ranked 11th among NFL quarterbacks in the National Football League. Out of 33 quarterbacks, one team having 2 quarterbacks qualify for passer rating, which gives you 33 on the season. Russell Wilson is ranked 11th. That means he's in the upper third in passer rating in the National Football League, which is very impressive for a rookie. How many times have I said that when talking about Russell Wilson? He's an impressive rookie, and his numbers bear that out. He has an 87.2 passer rating on the season, which again, puts him in the top half of the NFL. And so he's doing his part as a passer in the National Football League. He's holding his own, helping the Seattle Seahawks out to a 5-4 mark to start this season. Russell Wilson has been very impressive thus far as a member of the starting 5 in the National Football League. As we move on to our number 4 quarterback in the starting 5. And these aren't the rankings. These are just their number as they were drafted in the National Football League. Russell Wilson was the 5th and last member of the starting 5 drafted, so hence he's the 5th member of the starting 5. This is not the rankings. We will get to those later. The number 4 member of the starting 5 is Brandon Weeden. And of the starting 5 members, he struggled the most. And he did not have his best outing on Sunday. As we look at his numbers, he's a 55.1% completion quarterback right now. That's not bad, but that's not great either. It's right there in the middle. You would like to see that number come up ultimately. He's too close to the bottom half of 50. He's right in the middle, but he's too close to being under 55%. You want to see that number at 57, 58, 59. You want to see that number approaching 60 more so than getting closer to 50. And so he needs to find a way to have a higher completion percentage on a week in, week out basis to get this number up. The more completions you have, the better opportunity you have of winning football games, extending drives, scoring points, giving your team a chance to win football games. And that's something that Brandon Weeden has to work on. In his game against the Ravens, he missed a lot of opportunities to complete some passes. And we're not talking about 7-yard passes out in the flats, a 10-yard out, right on the outside hash. No, we're talking about wide open receivers down the field that could have been some big plays in this game for the Cleveland Browns. He missed guys running wide open. And some of them, I'm thinking, had to be, second, maybe even first reads, and he's just not seeing it, and he's not pulling the trigger. He's not cutting it loose fast enough. Either he didn't see it, he didn't react fast enough to it, or he just flat out didn't make a good throw when he diagnosed that he had an open receiver. Nonetheless, he missed opportunity after opportunity in this game against the Ravens. So much so that Rich Gannon, who was doing the telecast for CBS, was perturbed at the fact that Brandon Weeden was missing open guys over and over and over again. And this is something he has to work on. He's a rookie. These things happen. But they have to get him in the film room and show him that, look, if this first receiver isn't open and you don't like that look, let's get to your second progression faster. Guys are running open, and by the time you come down off of your first progression, guys are covered now. They were uncovered. You took too long to go through your progressions, and now they're covered. So that's something that Brandon Weeden will have to work on moving forward if he wants to become the quarterback that the Cleveland Browns invested a first-round draft pick in, if he wants to become the quarterback that the Cleveland Browns can count on to get them wins and put them in a position to try to make a push to make the playoffs in the near future. So against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 9, Brandon Weeden was 20 of 37, which these are the type of numbers you have that pull that percentage down. That's too many incompletions. We're talking about approaching 50%. Couple more incompletions, and he's under 50% for the game. And these are the type of numbers that pull that completion percentage down. And this speaks to the amount of passes that he missed, guys that were running open that he either missed or didn't cut the ball loose quick enough to and allowed Raven defenders to close in and make a play on the football. And so he just has to be more decisive in his decision making. See it, trust your eyes, cut it loose. And if you're Brandon Weeden, that's what you need to start doing. In this game, no touchdown passes against the Ravens. None. And you can't win games in the National Football League if you're not giving yourself a chance by throwing the football down the field and when opportunities present themselves, taking advantage of it. Some of these throws that I'm talking about, they could have potentially went for scores. You don't know. A missed tackle here and a guy's running free in the secondary. You don't know what these end up being. You got to get the ball in your playmakers' hands and allow them to make something happen for you. And so he didn't do that. The Cleveland Browns kicked 5 field goals in this game. because Brandon Weeden wasn't able to take them down the field and get them in the end zone. And even if he doesn't throw a pass, if you complete passes to get you down there and you run it in the end zone, it's just as good as you throwing a touchdown pass. But not getting in the end zone at all isn't the answer, and it's not going to win you a lot of games in the National Football League. Hence the 2-7 record right now for the Cleveland Browns. He did, however, throw 2 interceptions in this game, something that he has to work on. Of the starting 5, he's thrown the most interceptions, and it's not really close. He has 12, and no other member of the starting 5 has double digits in interceptions. So he, by far, is the most careless with the football when talking about interceptions. He needs to be more accurate. He needs to make better decisions with the football. And again, these things come with time. Everyone doesn't get it at the same time. And as you can see, some of the members of the starting 5 are getting it right away. And guys like Brandon Weeden are finding it more difficult to make the transition from college to the NFL and making decisions. So you can get away with being a split second late in college. Guys aren't as athletic. Guys aren't as fast, and they're not closing in on the football as quickly. In college, you can do that. In the NFL, you make a read 1 second too slow, and all of a sudden, Ed Reed is closing in and picking it off instead of you having a completion for 27 yards down to the Ravens 17-yard line. That's the difference between a win, a loss, a completion, and interception in the National Football League, is you being able to process information that quick, make a throw. Trust your eyes, make the decision, and throw it. Cut it loose. And that's not what Brandon Weeden is doing right now. He has to work towards that. So, on the season, Brandon Weeden is 185 for 336, which amounts to that 55% completion percentage. That's something that has to come up. And Brandon Weeden and Andrew Luck are tied atop the starting 5 for the most passing attempts by a quarterback in the starting 5. Both of these rookies have 336 passing attempts, which is a lot. And these two teams, the Colts and the Browns, ask a lot out of their quarterbacks. Too much sometimes, and I think that's why Brandon Weeden gets in trouble sometimes. They need to look to Trent Richardson and Chris Obanai and some of their other backs to kind of take the pressure off Brandon Weeden some more. I think they've been doing that of late as Trent Richardson gets healthier. But Brandon Weeden, his attempts need to be scaled back some, because as we see, he's not making the best of decisions all the time, and that can get you in trouble. This Browns defense plays pretty good, and so if you can eliminate the turnovers, you'll have a shot in most football games. That's what they need to help Brandon Weeden do by limiting the amount of passing attempts he has per game. So, looking at his season totals, Brandon Weeden has 2,088 passing yards on the season, which amounts to 232 passing yards per game. Again, he's throwing it a lot, so he has a lot of passing yards on the season, already eclipsing 2,000. And he's over 230 yards passing per game. Again, he puts it in the air a lot. Look at Sunday. He threw it 37 times. That's not uncommon for him. I've seen him throw it even more this season. And so that's something that the Browns need to try and scale back. Again, if you're a rookie quarterback, if you're a team with a rookie quarterback, you want to have these attempts under 30, if at all possible. Sometimes you have to chuck it. Sometimes you have to turn to the air. You got into an early deficit and have to kind of abandon the run game and throw the ball. That's understandable. But if you're in a football game, if you can avoid having your quarterback chuck it 35 times, do so. And so that's something that the Browns need to work on. Also, looking at his season totals for touchdowns and interceptions, he is one of 2 starting 5 members that has a touchdown to interception ratio that is below 1-to-1. And anytime you get that, there's a problem, because you don't want your quarterback throwing more interceptions than touchdown passes. That's what Brandon Weeden is doing right now. 9 touchdown passes to 12 interceptions. And so this is something that needs to be addressed. He's throwing too many interceptions, not enough touchdowns. So only 9 touchdown passes to 12 interceptions. So we're looking at less than a 1-to-1 ratio, and that's something that the Browns and Brandon Weeden himself need to address. He needs to clean that up, be more decisive with the football. If it's not there, throw it away. Don't force the issue and make the critical mistake. Weeden has done that too many times this season, and it's cost his football team. Have to find a way to either get it to your receiver, get it to one of your skill guys, or get it out of bounds. The one thing that I can say, which doesn't help Brandon Weeden's case, is that of the starting five, he has the best offensive line in front of him, and they're all young. They have a young nucleus that sees Mitchell Schwartz, a tackle that they drafted this year, a rookie at right tackle who is performing well. You have Joe Thomas out at left tackle. We all know how good Joe Thomas has been since entering the National Football League. And they have Alex Mack at center. So they have a young nucleus. Tackle, center, which are your three main positions on your line. These guys are set for years to come. They protect him. That's why Brandon Weeden has the least amount of sacks of all the starting five members. He's only been sacked 14 times. And so of the starting five, that's the least amount of sacks. And so they protect him. Also, going along with that sack total is Brandon Weeden has the least amount of lost fumbles. He has none on the season. And that's a testament to him being strong with the football in the pocket and this offensive line not surrendering sacks. So Brandon Weeden is getting time. He's getting time to survey through his progressions. Making the right read is something he needs to make a concerted effort to be better at because he's getting the time. That's not the issue. The issue is him seeing what is going on and transpiring on plays and making the right decision and making it very rapidly. He's taking too much time to process information right now, and this game in the National Football League is too fast for that. You don't make up your mind fast enough and you still decide to throw it, chances are you're going to throw an interception. And that's what Brandon Weeden has been doing this season. So as we move on to the number 3 quarterback in the starting five, which is Ryan Tannehill, we look at what he was able to accomplish in Week 9. Before we get to that, he is a 58.9% completion percentage quarterback right now, which is right around average for a rookie quarterback in the National Football League. That's right around where you're going to find most rookies, right around that 57 to 59 range, somewhere right in there. They usually try to get to 60, but it's so hard for a rookie quarterback because everything is different. Ryan Tannehill came in to this league and he didn't have to learn a new playbook. He didn't have to learn new terminology. His college coach is his offensive coordinator. So everything that he did in college, they're doing with the Dolphins. And so that made him that much more comfortable coming into the National Football League. It didn't help him right away because he still turned the football over early on in his career. Looking at Week 9, though, he's come a long way, probably the furthest from any quarterback that has started from Week 1 to Week 9. Ryan Tannehill has probably made the greatest strides of any of these quarterbacks in the starting five. He's looked really good of late. Now, against the Indianapolis Colts, the matchup that pitted two members of the starting five against each other, he was really good. He did everything that he needed to do to put his team in a position to win this football game. It just didn't happen. The defense didn't make enough plays against the Indianapolis Colts and Andrew Luck to stop them and prevent them from getting a win at home. Ryan Tannehill gave them every opportunity to win this football game. Let's look at his numbers. He was 22 of 38 in his football game for 290 yards passing. That is a phenomenal day. You'll take that every time if you're a head coach of one of these members of the starting five. 22 of 38. You're well above 50%. And you're pushing towards 60. And that's right around where Ryan Tannehill is as a quarterback in the National Football League. And so these numbers are true to form, right where he is as a quarterback this season. 1 touchdown, no interceptions in this game means he's not making the mistake again. He's taking care of the football, giving his team a chance. That's all you can ask for as a coach in the National Football League. Give me a shot to win the football game. And the Dolphins had a shot in this game. They just didn't take advantage of opportunities to make stops on defense to get them this win. So, Tannehill, 22 of 38, 290, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He played a remarkable game against the Colts. Good enough to win, but wasn't able to come away with the win. But he's still 4-4 on the season at 500. One of 3 quarterbacks in the starting 5 at or above 500. And so he's still doing well on the season. Has his team right in the middle of a playoff hunt. And so if he can continue to mature as he's done this season, they're going to have a legitimate shot of making the postseason because Ryan Tannehill is getting better each and every single week in the National Football League as he steps on the field. So let's look at his season totals thus far. Looking at his attempts, 142 completions versus 241 incompletions. Again, that makes up his 58.9% completion percentage. You look at his 1,762 passing yards, which amount to his 220.2 passing yards per game. Again, the Dolphins don't ask a lot out of Tannehill, and he responds when they call his number. When they ask him to make a throw and a guy is open, Tannehill has been hitting him, and that's why his numbers are up over 200 yards per game. You look at his interception and touchdown totals. He is the second of the 2 quarterbacks that we have spoken about that have a ratio of less than 1-to-1 of touchdown to interception. Brandon Weeden being the other quarterback who has less touchdowns than interceptions. And so Tannehill has 5 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. Now, while looking at these numbers from the outside looking in, you're thinking these are not good numbers. But you need to look at them in the context of how they occurred. Ryan Tannehill has not thrown an interception since week 4. We're at week 10. So he's been taking care of the football. This is why I said he's made the greatest leaps of any of these starting 5 members because he's not making mistakes like he was when he first entered the National Football League. His first game, he threw 3 interceptions against the Houston Texans. His third game, he threw 1 interception. His fourth game against the Cardinals, he threw 2 interceptions. So, since then, he has not turned the football over. He's been taking care of the football. And that's why his team has been winning football games. He's not making the mistake anymore. And so, you have to look at his numbers in context of how they occurred. He hasn't thrown a pick since week 4. And now, these touchdown numbers aren't what you would like them to be, only 5. But again, you can only take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. Maybe he hasn't been in the red zone. Maybe he hasn't had an opportunity to throw touchdown passes. Maybe every time they get in the red zone, they're able to punch it in on the ground. You don't know the circumstance. All you can go off of is what you see. But I'm just letting you know about these interceptions. They're not what they appear to be. He has not turned it over through the air with an interception since week 4. So he's getting better. Looking at his rushing totals, only 24 yards rushing, which is surprising because he's a very athletic quarterback. Keep in mind, at Texas A&M, before making the change to quarterback, he was a wide receiver. So he's athletic. He's a 4'5", 4'6", 40 guy. He can move. But he's not doing that right now, and maybe he doesn't need to. Maybe he's finding options out there to throw the football to. If you're a coach, you want your quarterback throwing it instead of running. And so he's finding guys to throw it to, or he's getting rid of it and throwing it out of bounds. He does have 1 rushing touchdown on the season, so that's an element that he adds to the Dolphins' attack when they get in the red zone, the ability to actually tuck it and run. If all else fails, if all else breaks down on the play, he can tuck it and run and score himself. They can call some naked boots for him. They can call quarterback draws because he has the athletic ability to get it in the end zone. And so that's something that the Dolphins will look to utilize moving forward. Also, in terms of fumbling, he has 4 fumbles on the season, only lost 1. And the reason why those totals aren't higher is because he's a big, strong guy. He's a 6'4" quarterback, pretty strong. He has one of the better lines in the starting 5. His offensive line has only surrendered 15 sacks to this point. And so Ryan Tannehill is being protected right now. And so looking at him and the numbers, they're protecting him. He's getting rid of the football, so you don't see a lot of fumbles occurring right now. And also, he's a big, strong kid. He's strong with the football in the pocket. He's a 6'4", 225-pound quarterback. He's a big, strong kid that can hold on to the football when he takes a shot. So that's another reason, in conjunction with the fact that the offensive line takes care of him, that he doesn't have a lot of surrendered fumbles. So you look at his rating overall, and of the 33 quarterbacks that qualify for a rating in the National Football League, Ryan Tannehill is rated 27th. And you look at that rating and you say, yeah, that's not a very good rating. Out of 33 quarterbacks, he's 27th. But you look back to the early start with the interceptions and the turnovers. That's a big part of the reason why he's rated so low as a quarterback right now. You take his numbers in the context of the way they occurred. Looking at his numbers, he hasn't turned the football over since the 4th week of the season. And so you have to take that into consideration. He's been playing better football of late. He's getting better each and every single week that he steps on the field. And so these numbers are quite misleading if looking at Ryan Tannehill's numbers. To say that he's the 27th ranked quarterback in the league, I'd probably have a strong argument against that notion because he has his team right now at 4-4 on the season, and he's playing pretty solid football, to say the least. You look at his quarterback rating, and that's 78.2, which amounts to his 27th ranked quarterback rating in the league among the quarterbacks. And so that will rise as he gets better, as those numbers begin to come along, as he begins to toss more touchdown passes. He's all but stopped with the turnovers in terms of the interceptions. He's not turning the football over. Got to see the completion percentage come up more touchdown passes. That number will rise. I failed to give you Brandon Weeden's quarterback rating and where he stands as a quarterback in the National Football League. Out of 33 quarterbacks, he is rated 32nd. And rightfully so, he hasn't performed at the level that the Browns would like him to. He's a rookie, however. All rookies don't mature at the same time. You can see some of the progress that he's made in his career thus far from week 1 to week 9. However, there's still some things that he's missing. There's still some throws that he could be making. And there's times where guys are running open and he's just not hitting them. And he has to make better decisions, faster decisions with the football. And so his 67.9% quarterback rating has him rated 32nd in the National Football League. And again, as he continues to mature, makes better decisions, faster decisions in the pocket, and trusts his eyes and cuts the football loose, you'll start to see these numbers rise, and you'll start to see him climb over other quarterbacks in the league that I think, frankly, he's better than anyway. So we'll see these numbers start to rise. But again, he's a rookie quarterback. Things take time. And so he's going to have to watch film, learn from his mistakes, and become a better quarterback. So as we continue on, we look at the number 2 quarterback in the starting 5, and that's Robert Griffin III. All right. Of all the quarterbacks in the starting 5, he leads all the quarterbacks in the starting 5 with a 65.6% completion percentage. Now that is excellent. That is tremendous for a rookie quarterback. But let's not forget, just 2 weeks ago, this completion percentage was up over 70. And so the last 2 weeks, he's took a tremendous step backwards. The last 2 weeks playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Carolina Panthers, respectively, he's had subpar football games. Not all his fault. He has not had help from his supporting cast. And the defense has not been able to get off the field, stop teams from scoring points. The Redskins have fallen behind early in football games, forcing them to take to the air probably a little bit more than they would like to. So while these numbers are still excellent, I mean, 65.6 is great. Not only for a rookie, that's a great number for any quarterback, veteran, rookie, all of them alike. That's a great number for a quarterback in the National Football. However, this number was just 2 weeks ago at 70%. So a lot of work to do if you're Robert Griffin III in the Washington Redskins to get him back to playing at the level he was playing at early on in the first 7 games of his career. So you look at his week 9 performance, and we're talking 23 of 39, 215 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. A subpar game by his standards. He set the bar so high for himself early on in his career that, we see numbers like this and they're foreign to us. These aren't the numbers we're used to seeing from Robert Griffin III. A big reason why is because the Redskins had to throw the football in this game because the Carolina Panthers jumped on them early. This defense has not been good all season long for the Redskins. And so if the offense doesn't get off to a good start and allows the other team to jump out ahead, take a 10, 13, 14, 17-point lead, now the Redskins have to take to the air a lot sooner than they would like. And that's why you see the inflated amount of attempts for Robert Griffin III. This isn't a team that throws it 40 times. He threw it 39 times in this game. That's not a recipe for winning for the Washington Redskins. They like to throw it 27, 28, 29 times. And that's what we've been seeing from Robert Griffin III for the most part in this season. Only the last 2 weeks have we seen those numbers climb up over 30 and get closer to 40 because of the large deficits that the Redskins have faced early in these football games, to where they had to take to the air in this game a lot sooner than they would have liked to, because they've been running the football very effectively in all of these football games. They just have to stop running because, you can't afford to eat up the clock. You can't afford to grind away at a lead when time is against you and you need to score quickly. And so 23 of 39 aren't Robert Griffin III-like numbers. Those numbers came from inaccuracy. He was not accurate against the Carolina Panthers. Not as accurate as we've seen this season. He missed some guys. Also, receivers dropped the football. We had, several receivers drop the football in this game, and Robert Griffin III and his completion percentage, and some of these Redskins drive suffered because of it. Guys have not been making plays for Robert Griffin III in the last 2 weeks against the Steelers, against the Panthers, and so his numbers have come down as a result of him not being as sharp as he was early on in the season, and guys not helping him out as they were early on in the season. He had no touchdowns, no interceptions in this game. He had a touchdown called back, and he's had several called back this season because of Redskins penalties. This has not been a disciplined Redskins team this season, and so not only have they stopped themselves, they've stopped Robert Griffin III from getting his numbers as well in the course of the season with their penalties and their undisciplined nature on offense. So you look at his numbers on the season, and we're talking 172 of 262, which lands him that 65.6 completion percentage. You look at his totals on the season in terms of passing yards, 1,993 yards, so just approaching 2,000 yards on the season, and that gives him an average of 221.4 yards per game throwing the football in the air. And so again, he's another member of the starting five that is over 200 yards passing per game, over 220 yards passing per game, which is right around where these rookies seem to be in the starting five. You take a look at his season totals for touchdowns and interceptions. Of the starting five, he has the best ratio of touchdowns to interceptions. He's not only over 1-to-1, he's over 2-to-1 in that department. Slightly over 2-to-1 with a 8 touchdown, 3 interception total. So we're talking slightly over 2-to-1 in that department, and that's excellent. That's an excellent number for a rookie quarterback. That's an excellent number for a starting quarterback that is a veteran in this league. You would like to see those touchdown numbers elevated, but again, you don't know what the circumstances are. He has 6 rushing touchdowns on the season, so that takes away from his ability to toss touchdown passes. Also, you got to think his running back, his rookie running mate in that backfield, Alfred Morris, has about 6 touchdowns rushing on the season, and so that takes away from opportunities to throw. You don't care how you get in the end zone in the National Football League. You just want to get in. And so I'm pretty sure Robert Griffin III could care less about how many touchdown passes he has. Probably the number that he's more looking so at is the interceptions. Only 3 on the season, and I'm pretty sure he would like to have that number be nothing, be 0. But again, 3 is not a lot in the context of a season where you've already competed in 8.5 football games. I say half because remember, he missed a lot of that Falcons game due to that concussion. So we're talking about well over 34 quarters of football, and we only have 3 interceptions. That speaks volumes to the care that Robert Griffin III takes with the football and the decisions that he makes when he has the football in his hands, in the pocket, and out of the pocket. So you look at his rushing totals, and by far, he's head and shoulders above everyone else in the starting five. The Redskins utilize Robert Griffin III as a dual threat quarterback, meaning he can pass it, he can run it as well. And they call plays for him in this offense to actually run the football. So his numbers running the football are going to be way better and a lot more than anyone else in the starting five. And I'll take it a step further. He has the most rushing yards of any quarterback in the National Football League. This is something that the Redskins look to do week in and week out, is get him rushes with the football to kind of keep the defense off balance. So he has 529 rushing yards on the season. No one in the starting five is close, and no one in the National Football League, for that matter, is that close to him in rushing total, in rushing yards on the season. He has 6 rushing touchdowns. Again, he adds a different element. He has a different dimension that he adds to the Redskins offense in the red zone because of his ability to run the football and be very good at it. He's not afraid to run it in the red zone, and the Redskins aren't afraid to call plays for him to run it. He scored a lot of his rushing touchdowns off of called runs, quarterback draws. The Redskins are not afraid to dial up his number for a quarterback draw in the red zone. It's been their bread and butter in the red zone thus far in terms of Robert Griffin III running the football in the red zone. They've scored a good majority of their touchdowns in the red zone with that quarterback draw. Of his 6 touchdowns, I would venture to say 5 of them are probably off of the quarterback draw, something that they've worked on all offseason, and it's paying dividends for them. They're running the football when they get in the red zone, and a big part of that is because of Robert Griffin III's unique ability to be able to make guys miss, use his speed to get in the end zone and score touchdowns with his legs, not only just his arm. So you look at the sack numbers, and these are kind of alarming because you're thinking he's an athletic quarterback. The sack numbers aren't going to be as high because he has escapability. He has the ability to extend plays, get out of the pocket. When trouble starts to loom, he can get out of harm's way and make something happen. If not, just throw it away. However, he leads the starting five with the most sacks at 20. He's been sacked 20 times on the season. This is largely in part to the fact that his offensive line is not that good. That's number one. But also, if you watch the Redskins games very closely, you can see by his interception numbers being so low that he's very cautious with the football. So it's not uncommon for him to go through his reads, not like what he sees, and put it down. But sometimes he goes through his reads and he wants to give guys an opportunity to come free, and he holds on to the ball just a tad bit too long, and it causes him to get sacked in the pocket. Again, with his unique ability and his uncanny ability to be able to extend plays and be able to be, just a athletic marvel on the football field, he needs to make his decisions faster. I don't like my first read. I don't like my second read. That check down is there, but I can get 8 yards on my own instead of throwing it. He needs to be able to tuck it and run and go. Make a decision faster. Either I'm going to throw it to my check down, I'm going to throw it to my first or second read, or I'm going to throw it out of bounds. But he has to make a decision quicker. Sometimes he processes the information and then realizes, I need to get out of here, and it's too late. The pocket has crumbled around him and he's getting sacked. These are things that happen when you are as cautious with the football as Robert Griffin III is. That's not a detriment to him, but it is something that he needs to work on because, again, you like him being cautious with the football. You don't want turnovers, but you don't want sacks either if they can be avoided. If he's not going to throw it, he needs to make a decision faster, get rid of the football, or get out of the pocket, get out of harm's way before the pressure and the rush get to him and bring him down. Also, when you're a mobile quarterback, sometimes you go extending plays. And I don't know why a lot of times these guys, they run out of the pocket and sometimes they run backwards. They finally run up and they don't quite make it to the line of scrimmage, but they don't throw the football away either. They just run out of bounds. And if you're a yard behind the line of scrimmage, that is counted as a sack. So sometimes athletic quarterbacks find themselves running around, running 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, only to run back forward and have a loss of 1 on the play. And the closest player to them on the defense is credited with a sack. So, again, sometimes these sack numbers are inflated by plays that really you don't see as a sack, but they're counted as a sack. But nonetheless, he has 20 sacks, leads the starting five in the most amount of sacks. He has to be better in the pocket. And again, he doesn't have the best offensive line in the starting five. So we can see why he does lead this group with 20 sacks. You look at his fumbles. And again, when you run and scramble as much as Robert Griffin III does, you're going to fumble the football. It's just the nature of the beast. Again, when you carry it as much as he does, as a dual threat quarterback, he has to be more cognizant of guys around him. There's going to be a lot of trash around him. He has to learn how to put the football away when situation calls for him to put it away and make sure he secures the football. He has 8 fumbles on the season. That is the most of any member of the starting five. However, he's only lost 2. Now, a lot of that has to do with luck. You fumble the ball 8 times, you have no idea and you have no control over where that football is going to go. Luckily enough for him, he's been able to recover a few of those himself. His teammates have been able to pounce on them. And so he's only lost 2 of those 8 fumbles. But again, if he continues on this pace, with this many fumbles, and finishes the season with around 15 or 16 fumbles, the luck could change in the second half, and that number could grow to 4 or 6 or 8 fumbles. You know, he could lose all 7 of those fumbles. You just never know where that ball is going to bounce. And so he has to be better at making sure he's not fumbling the football. Looking at his passer rating, in the National Football League, he's ranked 10th, which is the best of any member of the starting five. Again, Robert Griffin III was on a torrid pace to start this season. He was putting up numbers that this league has never seen before from the quarterback position out of a rookie. However, that 10th rated overall passer rating is a great number. We're talking about a 93.2% passer rating. You know, that's an excellent number. We're talking about the upper third of the NFL. Not the upper half, the upper third of the NFL. That means he's outperforming 2/3 of the league's starting quarterbacks, which is a phenomenal feat for a rookie quarterback. And so he's getting the job done again. It's not translating to wins on the field, however. His team is 3-6 on the season. I tell you what, Robert Griffin III would gladly trade his 10th overall passer rating for a 27th overall passer rating and Ryan Tannehill's rating, which is 27, and take that 4-4 mark and switch it with Ryan Tannehill and give him his 10th passer rating for the wins. You can be as accurate, as efficient as you want on the season as a quarterback, but again, if it doesn't translate to wins, then you're not getting it done as a quarterback in the National Football League. We judge quarterbacks on wins and losses, not passer rating, not touchdowns versus interceptions. We judge you on wins and losses. And so Robert Griffin III is performing. He's doing his part to help his football team win games. But that defense and the supporting cast at times have let him down. And so you get that 3-6 mark that the Redskins have right now. So again, if you're Robert Griffin III, continue doing what you're doing to help your team win. Continue to get better. Again, this passer rating just 3 weeks ago was up over 100. So we're talking about a quarterback that is starting to cool off. These numbers are starting to come down gradually because the players around him aren't making plays, and he's not making the same plays that he was making earlier in the season. So hopefully after this bye week, Robert Griffin III and that Redskins offense can rev it back up after having 2 lackluster consecutive weeks, bringing his rating down, and not only bringing his rating down, bringing his completion percentage down, but also bad losses by the Washington Redskins in games where they really didn't have a shot at winning in either 2 of these football games. Let's see if after the bye they can kind of right the ship, try to get this thing back on the right track.